Welcome to another edition of Hey Bobby with Senior VP of the Cleveland Guardians, Bob DiBiasio. Takes time to join us. It is a holiday week. It's a July 4th week. Still a lot of things going on when we talk about baseball and all-star games. And Bobby, I thought we'd start right there. And you and I, from time to time will talk about José Ramírez. But he is special. And you watch him game in, game out with all aspects of his game. And to be quite honest, this right now has the makings of maybe being his best season when you look at his clutch hitting and what he's doing with this team. And but maybe we could open up and you starting right there with our third baseman, José Ramírez.
You know, Ray, every player in the big leagues, when they walk into a clubhouse, they know they have a special life because they get to put on a uniform and play baseball that day. But there's some who take it even a step further. And guys like Omar Vizquel, couldn't wait to put on that uniform and get out on a field. And, Carlos Baerga and that group of guys in the 90s, they understand what a special opportunity they have as grown men to play the game of baseball on an everyday basis. And Jose is like that. He can't wait to get into the clubhouse. And if he sees that his name's not in the lineup, Tito used to tell me he would wait for him to walk in and yell at him, put my name in the lineup today. And they'd have these little arguments about you need a day off, and so the joy that he finds in putting on a uniform is just absolutely spectacular, and he's climbing the ladder. All we can talk about Jose right now is he's climbing the ladder in most every offensive category in the history of our franchise. And he signed through the 2028 season, so we've got him for 2025, 6, 7, 8, 4 more years after this. Who knows how many of those categories he's going to be at the top of the list and be considered one of the greatest baseball players ever to put on a Cleveland uniform. And, when you start passing people like Kenny Keltner and Jim Thome and Albert Bell, and those are the guys you're chasing, and Manny Ramirez and RBIs, it's pretty cool. And again, 4 more years after this, it'll be very interesting to see where he lands in our all-time stats.
Well, he's even more than stats, right? I mean, he's the whole package. I mean, he's got a terrific glove, great arm, runs the bases, smart on the bases. He's clutch, he switch hits. He is really, they talk about 5-tool players for outfielders a lot of time. He's a 5-tool player for us on the infield at third base.
Without question. And I think people have to remember, because this is not an easy game to play, that when we brought him up, first off, he's been a member of this organization, I think, since he was 16 years old when he signed to play at our Dominican. He's from Bani, Dominican Republic, and signed to play at our Dominican Academy at 16 years old. And, he came up and played shortstop for us, and then got sent back to the minor leagues. People forget that. I mean, Mickey Mantle was sent back to AAA when he made his debut with the New York Yankees. So people who see our young players come up and they struggle a little bit and they get the taste of what big league pitching and what the big leagues are all about, then they have to go back down to learn and fine tune a few things. It doesn't mean they don't have the skill set. And Jose's a perfect example of that. He went back down to the minor leagues, came back up, and is now one of the best players in all of baseball. But you're right. He does everything you can ask of a baseball player. And then you add on the instinct. His baseball IQ is ridiculously high. His leadership ability. If I've learned anything in 40 plus years in this business, is your highest paid player better be your best person. That is what permeates a clubhouse, that he doesn't shortchange anything. So nobody else in that clubhouse is allowed to shortchange the discipline, the teamwork, the work ethic, the professionalism, the respect for the game. If your highest paid player and best player is doing all the right things. So we're blessed to have Jose as our leader.
No doubt about it. I remember years ago, decade or so ago, I was with my son Rocco was coming up, and take personalities aside, I said, check out the highlights of Pete Rose. That's the way you want to play baseball. And in today's current way, Bobby, I would say watch the highlights of José Ramírez, because that's the way you want to play baseball. Baseball IQ, run, hit, clutch, and lead. And he kind of does it all. He's all over the field. Now, speaking of all over the ballpark, it is a holiday week. A lot of people coming to the ballpark, which is great to see. We've got the White Sox. We've got the Giants this week. That means a lot of people coming and enjoying their favorite eats as well. And you and I talk about this from time to time. The organization has put a lot of time and effort into the concessions, the choices, what's available, where it's available at, the changing too with the current fan. Maybe you could touch on that, because it doesn't happen by accident that all these choices are there for us. It's really a study that's put to work by the organization.
Without question. I happen to believe food and drink and baseball are as close a marriage as baseball and radio, which is the greatest marriage of all. I don't think anybody wakes up to go to a football game and says, oh boy, what am I going to eat today? And I don't think anybody walks into an arena to watch a basketball or a hockey game and says, oh, I can't wait to go get this food item. But when you walk into a baseball park, minor league, major league, food is on your mind, and it's all part of the total fan experience. I can remember back in the 80s and hearing reading a story about how the San Diego Padres were serving this thing called nachos in a plastic tin with, the cheesy sauce and a few nacho chips. And all of us in Cleveland and Detroit and, east of the Mississippi were like, what the heck are nachos? What are you talking about at the ballpark? And so you talk to your food provider, and then a few years later, obviously, it's one of the most popular food items. And in fact, while hot dogs are still the #1 seller at Progressive Field, the nachos we have, specifically also the Momocho pulled pork nachos that you get in the helmet, which are gigantuan, is, I think, the #2 seller in the ballpark. Nachos totally #2 behind the hot dog. When we opened Progressive Field, we really boasted the fact that we had 70 plus food items. We wanted to take care of everybody from sushi to hot dogs. We don't do sushi anymore because there were only like 100 people over the course of 6 months that actually took advantage of having a sushi spot inside the ballpark. And I remember having somebody come up to me and go, hey, where's the sushi stand? I said, hey, you're the guy that has them every day. I apologize, but nobody, you don't have enough friends that want to eat sushi at the ballpark. So we've reduced the number of items. The one thing we have done is add 13 local restaurants into the ballpark, not only from a craft beer point of view, but also from a food concession opportunity. And our partner, Delaware North, does a phenomenal job. They've been involved in food concessions at stadiums and ballparks and arenas for, I think, since the 1920s, and maybe even prior to that. They do a phenomenal job for us. But yes, food is so much a part of the total fan experience.
Well, it's got you got everything, right? You got the peanuts and the popcorn and the hot dogs if you want traditional, but you guys also, and I thought maybe you could expand a little bit on the thought process of the foods of the city and the tastes of the city, because I know I'm just guessing it's probably been a decade since you guys put that all into place, and maybe it's been longer. But I think a great addition is you come in through that right field area and you pass the corner bar, and there's all the local eats lined up for us. Again, another nice way of tying the city in with the ballpark.
Well, and that was the whole idea, that we wanted to bring the city of Cleveland inside Progressive Field. And how do you do that? Well, you can do it graphically. You can do it, with murals and things of that nature, to give everyone a feel of what our city looks like and feels like. And but then food really brings it to life. So as we've gone through the different stages of working with different restaurants in town, and again, pitching as many as possible. Some have the ability to come in and do it. Some didn't want that added burden of having to have a satellite spot for their food and beverage, unfortunately. But it was well received by many. And as you walk around the main concourse, and this is what's going to happen as we renovate the upper deck, we're going to have more of it available in the upper deck, so people in the upper deck don't have to go down to the main concourse to find that one thing they're looking for. So that's a part of the whole renovation process with the upper deck. I think it was really a wonderful philosophy by the people in our organization who were charged with the creation of the corner bar and the new entryway in center field, right field. They did a phenomenal job.
I brought some people into town. I think I told you this about a month ago, who came in from Cincinnati, great friends of mine. It was their first time at the ballpark, and they fell in love with it. And they love coming into Heritage Park there and making their way around all the eats and to the seats and everything. And I agree with you. Job well done. So as you're out and about at the old ballpark this week and join the games against the White Sox and the Giants, heading down the first half stretch for our Guardians, who have the best record in the American League, enjoy your local eats as well. Bobby, as always, thanks for the time. Have a great holiday, my friend. Always enjoy the conversations, and we'll do it again next week.
You have a great holiday as well, Ray. Go Guardians.